Hi, welcome to the Decision Collaborative. I'm Cynthia Chang Correa, and I am delighted, over the moon, to be sharing with you today my colleague and friend, Babette Bensoussan. Many of you who have been with us in the Intel community analysis, business analysis, as well as in decision making, will know Babette because she is one of our gurus. She is executive leadership and business coach, as well as an instructor with Hult EF Corporate Education and the adjunct professor at the University of Technology at Sydney. She's also a fellow, one of the early fellows of the Council of Competitive Intelligence Fellows, and for good reason, because she's one of the pioneers in that field and also in the work that we're doing in decision work as well. She's also a multi author. Some of you may know her from her newsletters, but I'm happy to share with you as I geek out a little bit here my first book by Babette Bensoussan, and certainly another well-known one. And many of you will also know her through analysis paralysis, which is very well known through various types of business educational programs. And so with that, I want to give a hearty welcome to Babette. This is just, I've been so looking forward to this event, as Babette knows, and some of you in the audience may know as well.
CC, I am just delighted to be here. I love having conversations with you. We talk about so many different things and, we tend to go off track. So some of your listeners may find that we're going off track again.
Well, there's a
So
method to our madness.
there is.
There's a method to our madness. And I think that when we do, one of the things we've already agreed on, the ground rules, is that if we don't get enough covered today, we'll cover it in other videos. So there's more to come, right?
Yes.
But one of the things I would love to start out with, though, is that, with the intro, I've already mentioned that you are a pioneer, but, before you were decision making Maverick, as you are known today, you were already a pioneer, thought leader, author, educator, right? As I'd mentioned in CI, strategic intelligence.
Yep.
And so, how and why have you expanded from your earlier path to what you do today, which is focusing more on decision and leadership?
And that's such a great question. The commonality, the thread between strategic intelligence or strategic planning, then competitive intelligence and the use of market intelligence and whatever, and now coaching, there is a common thread. That thread is how we make decisions and where the biases, the blind spots, the assumptions, the interpretations, the limiting beliefs we have all impact the way we make a decision, whether you're the leader of a team, the leader of an organization, or leading your own life. Each one of these has a common thread, which is the way we make decisions and the things that prevent us from making the best possible decision, whether it is for the organization, the team, or for yourself. And so that common thread has never, ever changed. And that is my thread throughout my
Right.
life.
So, if anything, you've really focused more on the core essence. You haven't departed at all from the path. You simply just focused more on areas in which people need more work, more support, it
Correct.
sounds like.
Correct. Correct. So, when you look at analysis in intelligence, it's about the broader environment for an organization. And all I've done is shifted from the organization to the individual. That's it.
Yes,
And it's
yes.
still, but it's still, with the individual as a coach, you listen to what they have to say, you understand the environment in which they live, the factors that impact their ability to behave or to compete or whatever. It's You're doing the same with an organization, except the tools are a little different. That's
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and how have you found this transition as you shifted from working to corporations, working with corporations to working more with individuals? What sort of shifts your maybe even some of your own mindset shifts, if you will? Um,
My mind shifts have shifted a lot. Um, I think You know, the work I did to become a coach validated a lot of the intelligence learnings I had
Yeah.
previously
Hmm.
and the books. It made me realize that, and I think the biggest learning I got, organizations don't make decisions, it is individuals. And for me, that recognition, that realization is what shifted me from, you know, you would know this. You can present as many CI reports as you want with really valid data. But if the individual the client that you're presenting it to doesn't see it, there's something blocking that person. And that, I think it was after 350 CI projects that I realized it's got nothing to do with the organization, but the individual who's making the decision. And
Right.
so I thought that's one way of working, was with the individual. And we
Right. And we've
forget.
had conversations about this too, where because you know that I've been working on and refining this particular decision framework.
Yes, Perla.
And and it really dovetails very nicely with what you've said and what you do. And I think you were one of the earliest recognizers of this too, where we tend to focus on information and tools, and in fact, over indexing on it when most of the blocks, most of the barriers or the limiters are actually a number of different facets and dimensions that sit beneath the surface that we're not aware of. And so, one of the things that I would love to explore with you is, and this is certainly a larger topic that there'll be a lot of sort of different branches and arms to this is how you help people recognize these things, how you help them penetrate their blocks. And as you work with various executives and managers in organizations, various professionals who come to you wanting that support, obviously you have your toolkit, but where do you begin? How do you begin to think about penetrating those barriers?
The first step, and this was one of the most brilliant lessons I learned, is quite easy, you know. It is really easy. It's called listening. And that's the first step. That really is. Listen to what people are saying, what individuals are saying. You can then say, I'm noticing, or I'm curious, or reframe something so that you get a better understanding of what they're getting at. And as you do that, you uncover some of the blocks that are happening. So one of the toolkits I work with, which you're very well, are called the GAILs. And the GAIL stands for, the G stands for the gremlin, that voice in your head that goes, oh, you're not good enough, you can't do this. A are the assumptions we make about our abilities, about the world around us. I is the interpretations that we make about another human. For example, let's say your boss walks past with a scowl on his face. Your immediate reaction might be, oh my God, what have I done wrong? I've done something. You've interpreted that behavior in light of yourself, when he may have had a fight with a child or got bad news about a family or something. You don't know, but you interpreted it that way. And L stands for limiting beliefs. I can't do this. Well, what is stopping you? So I was recently on a fabulous program on emotional agility, a certification program with Dr. Susan David here in Australia. It was wonderful. But she repeated something that fascinated me. Between stimulus and response, there is a gap. Okay. So when we say, I'm angry, no, first of all, you're not angry. You are feeling angry.
Mm,
Anger doesn't define you. It's you are feeling angry. So what's causing you to feel angry? Now we're starting to work with the ability between the stimulus and the response. So when I'm speaking to clients and leaders and everything, I look for that gap. for the way they express words. It's back to listening. When people say, I'm agitated, no, you're not an agitated person. You are feeling agitated. So you use that, you listen. And that's what I'm saying. And you identify that gap, and then you can work on that gap. Is it a gremlin? Is it an assumption? Is it interpretation? Is it a limiting belief? What's the hook?
What is the hook? So I want to just kind of adjust this a
Yeah,
little bit.
we've gone off track already.
Not at all. Not at all. I think we are where we're supposed to be because
Okay.
my brain is lit up. And I know that audience members probably have questions too. But I think one of the things I want to lean in on a little bit and just maybe kind of adjust a little bit is that, yes, listening is simple, right? It's a simple idea. But
But
the
it's hard.
act of listening, the skills behind listening, and being able to make those, draw those connections, because you are an analysis guru, right? You understand that analysis is
Connection.
not simple either. And so you're as you're listening, you're relying on a body of experience, right? Just a career full
That
of
is
a lot
true.
of skills. And
That is true.
so as people are embarking on maybe developing better listening skills, to be able to listen to
Yes.
themselves, right? To uncover perhaps what their body or their minds or their behaviors, behavioral patterns are telling them about their decision making, or maybe observing others. What can you suggest? Where can they begin to develop better active listening skills? Because so
Well,
much of this is cumulative, right? Knowledge that's built up, experiential knowledge, tacit knowledge, right? That we take for granted for those of us who've been doing it. But for
yes,
those who are just
yes.
starting out, how do we refine this? How do we begin?
Look, good listening is not an easy thing to do. It
Mm,
takes practice, because what often happens is our ego gets in the way,
mm,
and the ego says, oh, I've got the answer, or I can give you advice, or I'm Stephen Covey said that we often listen to reply or to respond. We don't listen to listen. So, and we often also listen to say, to say the expression, or I'm right, you're wrong. We have a lot of that these days, where people listen to, in order to say I'm right and I'm wrong. The issue is that that's not listening, because you're answering from your own perspective. You're not stepping in the shoes of the other person.
yeah.
And so part of listening, the key skill of listening is, you don't have to be right. You don't have to be wrong. Just hear what the person is saying.
Mm-hmm.
Just listen, and don't have to respond. And you are welcome to pause. There is nothing wrong with pausing to say, I'm thinking about it, to reflect what that person has said. So
Right.
the key things we really all have to learn is how to listen without having the need to respond.
Yes. Yes. And
And
or perhaps if there is a response, because you and I are both coaches, so we're trained that our response is also through curiosity. So
always,
it's not a response that is based on trying to correct someone or trying to redirect someone or trying to give them more information that you think they need or it's anything prescriptive or anything like that. It's really more that you are following up with more questions in a
it
way.
is all about curiosity. So, one of the tricks, you've reminded me, Cece, of one of the key tricks I did. I love reading. I love reading biographies, autobiographies. So for me, every client, everyone I interact with is a book. it's their biography. So I ask questions as if I'm reading a novel, which is their life.
I
So
love
when,
that frame.
yeah, and that to me is I am reading library books of humans. And so that's where my curiosity, it's a page. What do you mean you didn't do this? It's a page turner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I work with people as if I'm reading a book, which is their life.
I love that analogy. And I see it. Now I see it now that you've said this.
Yeah. And so therefore, it's exactly as you said. You're curious. What's on the next page? Why? Where did that happen in their childhood? Or, you're reading someone's biography when you're talking to them. But
Yeah.
I think we need to be aware that that is when we're coaching, when you're in therapy or but when you're with a friend who's in a difficult place, again, think of them as a book or a chapter of that book that you're
Hmm.
reading. You're
Hmm.
curious to understand what is making them write that chapter in their particular life at that particular moment.
Yes.
And that helps
Yes.
you go back.
So you mentioned friend. And so now I'm thinking about different types of people that we interact with. And so, in your experience in the various types of professionals you work with, right? Various types of executive managers to maybe middle
Yeah.
managers and startup managers, various segments. Um, do you notice that there are differences in approaches? Do you ever, as a coach or as an educator, depending on which hat you're wearing, um, or even as a consultant, eh, make adjustments based on how you observe the thinking styles for certain roles, individuals, and that and these sort of elements, or is that a conscious decision? Is it intuitive? Is that even a factor at all? I'm just.
Okay. For me, you, it's an insightful question.
And I'll
Now,
back up by saying, excuse me, I'll just maybe add a little more context for our audience members too, because some of you may be familiar with your LinkedIn profile and your posts. And you have your newsletters, you have different comments, and you've had comments here and there talking about executive decision making, how what people miss, and so on and so forth, right? And so as we are thinking about different roles, and perhaps say an analyst or intelligence analyst, they're presenting to the decision maker. You mentioned that scenario already.
yeah,
And oftentimes we're presenting the facts and so forth. And so let's just assume now they're actively listening, they're observing. I'll just reframe this a little bit. Are there ways in which they should be observing, listening, thinking about that person, that role, and making those adjustments? And now I had originally framed it as a coaching question, but now this is also an analysis
I
delivery
agree.
question, right?
It is. And one of the key questions, so for the first couple of years, I was just so glad to get a consulting assignment. I took whatever I could.
Yeah.
As I became more experienced in delivering value for my clients,
Mm,
I never walked away from a consulting project without the answer to this question. What decision will you be making with this?
yes.
So I can give a classic example. We did a project for a waste recycling company, and the managing director called us in and he says, I want to know who's who in the zoo in waste oil. I go, okay. And I said to him, finally, after a conversation of what he was interested in, I said, what decision are you going to make with whatever we bring you? And he says, well, I want to know, should I enter waste oil recycling? So here you have who's who in the zoo was his original consulting assignment versus should I enter waste oil recycling?
Mhm.
They're two very different analytical approaches to the issue.
Mhm.
One, who's who in the zoo, will deliver a list of names, absolutely add no value to the decision that has to be made.
That's right.
Should I enter waste oil recycling? That's a very different analytical tool that you will use because you want to know who are the competitors, what is, if he has to adjust his business to enter waste oil, what will be his return on his investment in waste oil. All of a sudden, who are the suppliers, who are the customers, what are the barriers to entry? All of a sudden, you're using a very different technique to answer the question, should I enter waste oil recycling?
Right.
So my key question for all competitive intelligence assignments or strategic intelligence or market intelligence was, what decision will you be making? If the senior executive does not know what decision and gives you the bland answer, well, I just want to know.
Hmm.
I've always, when I've had that response, I've been very naughty and I've said, here's the telephone number for a good librarian researcher.
Yeah.
You're wasting your
It's
money
a
with us.
different kind of, yes. Now, so now I want to dive into this a little bit more deeply because I've encountered this, and I'm sure you have because you've had many more projects under your belt, where the ultimate client may represent or may describe a decision they're making, but that's not the full story. And perhaps they don't even necessarily understand that full story
Correct.
themselves. They're
That's
declaring that decision they have to make, when in fact it might be layers of decisions. It may even be different sets of decisions, but they're just mental shortcuts or misrepresenting what that decision is, or that they've already made their decision
and they want validation.
and they want
So
validation.
you know the waste oil one, the answer that we had, so just to finish that story, was the answer was that there was no way he was going to get a return on investment because he'd have to spend so many millions of dollars to upgrade plant and equipment to accept waste oil. He would, and the suppliers of the oil were teaching their customers how to recycle. There was,
Mm-hmm.
because there was the green movement and all of this. So he would not get his response, his return on investment that he wanted. And he was looking for a new market opportunity. When we gave him the answer, he was pissed off because we didn't validate the decision he wanted to make to shareholders. He got up, went out of the room, and the rest of his team clapped us that we were finally able to deliver the news. But he was pissed off with us.
Yeah.
So it does, it was interesting that his own people were telling him this and he refused to listen. So he had
Mm-hmm.
to get us to do it. And so he could blame us. There are always different layers of decision making. I
Right.
think as a consultant, it is your job to identify what is the decision being made. And it could be a stepped decisions. And yes, a lot of executives might have something in mind. But it depends if you understand the decision that's being made and it's what the decision the guy wants to make or the woman. Like another one, we were asked by a baking firm. They wanted to buy a small business. They were looking at one type of business, and we told them, no, this culture was not the right fit, but here's another one. And they bought the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
you've got to give feedback. You've got to listen. Again,
Yeah.
it comes back to the listening and asking questions, being
And
curious about the decision.
yes,